A child who was born and never heard anything else other than you are divine. Right?
Yeah.
You come from a divine source.
Right. Yes.
That child moves differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Than others.
But the problem is that child is the anomaly. So now the other children don't know how to accept that child. And now the child feels uncomfortable about being divinely sourced. And maybe I just need to act like everybody else.
Yep. And I know you have, I'm not going to go into detail, but I know you have some ideas as well of some things that we can do here in Charlotte that can help us move closer towards the idea of sovereignty than anything else. Man, that is powerful. Where did the fracturing of community start? Like, when did we start?
Listen, we've been under attack in one way or another as a cultural group for like 1,500 years. Like a lot of times we isolate this thing that we're experiencing to what they call the transatlantic slave trade, and how long we've been here as a captive people for those who came here as captives to that 400-year time frame.
Yeah.
But there was a group of Arabs who invaded Africa to seize control of the trade routes and the resources of Africa, you know, way before the transatlantic slave trade. And so this is, and the Portuguese were doing it. This is where the other groups, the Spaniards and all the other people, got the idea to do it, is because it was already being done by the Portuguese and by the Arabs. And so we've been under attack strategically as a group,
right?
For over 1,500 years. So you know, over time, a single drop, single drops of water consistently will beat a hole through concrete.
Yeah.
So over time, we did. But I will say there was a time where we can absolutely identify that when you can walk and notice the crack, like, and literally it came with crack.
So we're talking about, what year was that?
70, we're talking about late 70s. Now, it depending on where you were in the country,
right?
Where it kind of maybe made its way to your community, maybe in the early 80s,
right?
But we really talking about a thing that started spinning in the 70s.
Gotcha.
But along with that, it was the first, in the 70s, it was also the first time a couple of things started happening. One was this mass movement for black people to accept social welfare. Okay. My grandmother, as much as we struggled, so there wasn't a big thing for black communities that even were struggling to be on food stamps and to be on social welfare, because that wasn't really designed for us. It was designed for middle class white women whose husbands had gone off to war.
Got you.
Just through the New Deal and all those things, we started getting folded into it. But we really only accepted it on a large scale going into the 70s. And a lot of what was happening was a lot of major manufacturing plants and things were starting to shut down as we moved into a technological age.
Right.
So then you had this large group of men, black men in particular, out of work. So you had large families,
right,
larger than what we know now,
right,
and there was a need for assistance, and women would take assistance. But in taking assistance, guess who had to go? The man.
Yeah.
Right.
Got you.
So now households are severed just to receive financial assistance.
Right. Right.
So now he's out, and then you, on top of this, you flood our community with heroin,
right,
and later crack.
Yeah.
And so either that man out there, he's in pain,
right,
for being out of work, being away from his family, whatever it may be. So he either tries to anesthetize that pain through drug use, or he tries to regain control of his family through drug sales. And at the same time, they started with Nixon and on through Reagan. They launched when it went from COINTELPRO, which was a war on black people, to a war on drugs. Right. But it was still about, well, where are the drugs?
Right, in the black communities. Right.
And then we saw the extreme rise of the prison industrial complex.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so in the 80s was the first time you started to see anybody, but definitely black men and women, get double-digit times for drug offenses. You're away from your 10, 20 years for drugs.
Right.
Not a violent act that was associated with drug transaction.
Right. Just the possession of.
The possession of. And so we started really seeing that we absolutely lost an entire generation. And so did God.
So we are just now in a position, I wouldn't even say position, gaining a conscious awareness of, and correct me if I'm wrong, of identity.
Yeah, we're still in an identity crisis.
Yeah.
We're still very much in an identity crisis.
Man, which now is correlated and connected now to the emotions that we feel, whether that's not feeling good enough, feeling less than, incapable of, all these things.
That's a response of a person or a people who do not have knowledge of self. So the only way someone starts to have these levels of insecurities that may turn into depression or anxiety is when they don't understand their true nature. A child who was born and never heard anything else other than you are divine. Right?
Yeah.
You come from a divine source.
Right.
You come from a people who, and the most impressive resume in human history.
Yes.
Right? Yes. That child moves differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Than others.
But the problem is that child is the anomaly. So now the other children don't know how to accept that child. And now the child feels uncomfortable about being divinely sourced. And maybe I just need to act like everybody else.
Yep.
It's hard just being this way by myself.
So then you start conforming.
You start seeing some children conform, but someone with a proper cultural context and a community around them that will support their cultural identity. Not saying that these things, they don't suffer anything, don't have any issues, but the issues that we're seeing pervasive throughout our community, we don't see with the people who truly understand who they are.
Yeah.
Our growth has been impeded.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has been arrested. Our development, that's what you had the group, arrested development. Our development has been arrested.
Yeah. Wow. Because our identity
was stolen.
Was taken from us.
Completely.
Yeah.
So when you ask where do we start?
Yeah.
Start by reinfusing the things that another group think absolutely necessary to take from you. But therein lies the antidote.
Right.
There was something about your language that they deemed threatening. So they took it. Even your name in that language was offensive to them.
Yeah.
But it ain't just offensive. They understood that your name had meaning that reminded you of your destiny, because we didn't name children randomly.
Right. Like we do now.
And I said, listen, you can make up a name, just give it meaning.
Right.
That's who we are. We are people that understood the destiny of this child in a lot of cultural cases and named that child to remind that child, my daughter's name means destined to succeed.
So just give it the meaning. So it is within the meaning that anchors you into the mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But those who have the cultural tools to identify why you came.
Yes.
And what you're here to do. Right? And so take that back. Why did they take that drum from you?
Mm-hmm.
What was so? And then they think about hip hop. The important part was that drum sample.
Yep. That's it. That
drum sample was.
Yeah.
You know, when James Brown said, "Give the drummer some."
Yeah.
And that's a mother. He knew that this was giving you birth to something.
Yeah.
And at one point, it was the most sampled drum sample
ever, right? Because the drum, the kick of as I was in the music industry, we call it the kick. It was everything. It was the movement. It gave whatever you're doing rhythm. So as people who run and as they listen to music, their tempo of running is normally in cadence with whatever tempo that they're listening to. So, wow.
Yeah. So, but our first drum beat was our heartbeat. And it was a poet named Saul Williams said that our children have become offbeat heartbeats. We are rhythm. We are off rhythm. We are out of sync because we're not in our natural environment. We're not in the ecosystem that can support not only our basic survival. It can allow us to thrive, and all things want to thrive and get better, right?
Yes.
And so we're not there. So we have to take back those things. There's reason why there are cultures throughout the continent of Africa that can be identified by their fabrics.
Okay.
So when we talk about clothing and textile, there's a reason for the kente cloth. There's a reason for the mud cloth. There's a reason for the Ashanti people having that cloth. There's a reason.
Gotcha.
Right? And it speaks of cloth.
Yeah.
Something someone's wearing can identify status, destiny, and never have to be spoken. Can move through the culture group, and everybody, even visitors, that's
wow.
Just on the cloth.
Wow.
So when we talk about that special cloth, that cut from a different cloth. Gotcha. It has a greater context than we have any idea, but the fact that we still find a way to say it, saying that in our genetic memory banks is the understanding of who we are, trying to make its way back out and make itself known to us.
Yes. Even the saying of it takes a village.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I have to assume that started. That's how children were raised.
But I add because it's not that's the popular one that you say, right? But the way that it's a word missing. Okay. It takes a healthy village. It doesn't just take a village. Just any village is not suited to raise a child.
Right, because it can be a toxic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes a healthy village to raise a child.
Absolutely. Wow. So as I'm parenting, I'm trying my best to identify within my children their uniqueness and trying to capture that and embed that in them in hopes that as they continue to grow, when they are no longer under my care, they understand that their uniqueness to a degree is their purpose. So not to allow the world to take that from them, so they can hold on to as much as possible their identity.
Absolutely. But let's just circle back because this is why culture is important.
Okay.
Because culture teaches us that knowledge of self is not about knowledge of the individual.
Okay.
You were talking last night, and we made this reference about how when you left out of the house,
yes,
your father would say,
yes, remember you representing the McKnight.
Right.
Yep.
And so this popular term that we do this, we do this for our last name. We have a shirt in my company called "Grind for My Bloodline." Right.
Got you.
And so
I'm gonna need that shirt, by the way.
We got it. and so when we talk about grinding for our bloodline, we talk about I grind for my entire culture group. Paul Rosen had one of my favorite quotes. He says, "Where I enter, so enters my race." Whether I like it or not, whether it's fair or not.
Right.
I represent every black person when I enter a room, and especially a room of non-black people. I must own that responsibility.
Right.
I must own that responsibility to always represent the cultural group well. And I'm not talking well in other people's cultural norms of well.
Right.
That he's so well spoken. They ain't even talking about that.
Right.
I'm talking about in character.
Yeah. So let's stay right there. Character. We had a long discussion last night, and we were talking about character, which is an intangible that is so important to our identity. So let's dig a little bit more in character and why that's so important.
Yeah. So character is, again, it's not like black people. It's not just one thing.
Right.
It's way what you need to be in response to what life is presenting you.
Right.
There are times where I need to represent a cool and calm character.
Right.
There's times where I need to be a little more heated.
Right.
A little bit more insistent in my character expression.
Yeah.
And so, but never compromising my values, principles, and codes. That's when we when we talk about staying in character. It's about being very rooted in the values and principles that developed you. So going back to the culture.
Yeah.
So within culture, we have culture norms, cultural mannerisms within a cultural group. Staying firmly rooted in that thing that grew you.
Yeah.
To this point, and that understanding, and never, ever stepping outside of that.
I love it.
Compromising that.
Yeah, especially when most importantly, behind closed doors.
Absolutely. So yes, that idea of what we do when no one's watching.
Yeah.
Absolutely a great definition.
Yeah.
To kind of describe an aspect of character.
Yeah.
But the same can be true in other ways, right? I know people who exemplify good character in private. Step out into the hood or the community, whatever it might be, and show their ass.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you like, that ain't you.
Right. Who's this guy?
Yeah, trying to sell the world.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like what we see in hip hop. We see a lot of things. You get to know these people, and anything. I'll be honest with you. I was unfortunately wrongfully convicted of a crime when I was 18.
Right.
And I served a 14-year sentence in the state of North Carolina. Not all of the 14, but half of it. And in that time, I would see these guys, these ferocious guys, right, walking around the prison yard and in the dorm. But as time went on and I was there and I got to know people and I would have these one-on-one conversations with these guys, you realize like, oh no, it's not a killer. This somebody's son, this somebody's father, this somebody's nephew, this a regular dude. Like, he trying to figure this life out.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you all his hopes and ambitions and his dreams. And you'll see this softer, vulnerable side in this one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
And as soon as the conversation is over and they walk out of the dorm or they walk back on the yard, that other thing clicked.
Yeah. They flip that switch.
And like, because in their mind, they believe that they have to present a certain way, a certain persona to survive the environment. What I did different was I decided to do the opposite. Where I had been living the lie of the street guy throughout my teenage years.
Right.
I decided once I went into incarceration that I was going to go back and be the young man that my mother raised from the cultural environment that I grew up in that nurtured me, and get back to those principles, codes, and values that I had embedded in me. And I was going to take that, and even if that meant me losing my life, at least I didn't die on a lie.
Right.
That no one would have to make up something at my funeral during my eulogy.
Right.
To make the day better.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want them to have to find some moments in my life.
So speak a little bit too, because again, we are so many things, right? You're also an educator as well. And during your time in the school system, you had your students write their eulogy, right?
Eulogy. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more why you did that.
It's interesting because people, initially people think that's so morbid,
right?
Yeah. But I saw so many of them living that lie the same way I lived that lie, and I was very curious to how they would want to be remembered, what legacy they wanted to leave, and whether that legacy and that memory matched the lifestyle that they were currently presenting.
Right.
And in most cases, it wasn't true. It didn't line up. They wanted to be, remembered as these amazing people who gave to the world, who solved some of the problems of their community and family. They wanted to be, and so that's what they expressed, how they want to be remembered as a good person. Yeah. They didn't always say person.
They use a different adjective.
But at the end of the day, they either want to be a good one or real. And so, we would sort through that. Okay, well, we have to get busy living that eulogy now. But that's culture.
Yeah.
That's culture, because see, culturally, Africans, a lot of African cultural groups and their spirituality, we earn our right to life after this.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By our living, we become not just ancestors, we become these elevated, honorable ancestors by how we live now. It's not that somebody just decides after we've transitioned, this person.
Yeah.
And so this is what we should always live and strive for.
Yeah.
Is that we have this ritual that we call pouring libation.
Okay.
Where we pour water to the ground, and in many cultures they call names.
Right.
I want my name to be mentioned in libations for generations to come. See, that's different for me than being famous.
Right.
That's right. Famous, like but to be in the hearts and the minds of the people is someone who impacted their living, who added to the cultural value, that added to, as you described, that fertilizer that helped to grow up another generation. Yeah, that's the legacy. And so I educated them to be mindful. Of their legacy. Be mindful of the life, even after this life that they're creating for themselves.
So it created almost a what I like to say, an infrastructure of how they make decisions. Right?
Does it align?
Does it align, right? Based on what you would like to see, the decision that you need to make right now, does that align with that or not?
So now what we created was accountability.
Woo! Man, there is so little. I can talk with you forever, guys. Listen, this right here has been rich. If you haven't gained anything from this, I'm not sure what you were listening to. You are going to see him again. There is so much more that I want to get into with Adrian, but man, I appreciate this, man. I have learned so much just within this 45 to an hour that we've been sitting here talking. Before we get out of here, what is just one nugget, one key, one thing that you would like for people to know? Whether that is speaking to a parent that wants to raise a culturally responsible man, or whether that's speaking to community, like what do you want to leave the community with?
Yeah. So I'll give you what an elder just recently gave me, and I'll just add to that just a tad bit. Elder told me, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add, take care of yourself, and let's take care of each other in a very real, sincere, and genuine, practical way.
Yeah.
Let's take care of your health and your well-being in every aspect of your living, and take care of each other.
Yeah.
Take care of each other.
Yeah. That's incredible, guys. Well, that is it for this episode of Block Building. Until we meet again, stay inspired. Peace.